We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Why didn't the founders of this great nation of the United States of America frame the Declaration of Independence as life, for as long as you don't say anything against someone's lifestyle or political views, freedom, as individuals to do whatever we want with no consequences, and the pursuit of pleasure, even if it destroys our society? The exact words of life, liberty, and happiness are of central importance to America's independence. But I'm afraid our children are forgetting the meaning of these truths from generation to generation. My wife informed me of a funny teaching moment with one of our daughters on this very subject. Hello, I'm Chad Robert Parker, author of Sterling Bridge, based on a true story of a man credited for uniting a community that was divided over religion, race, customs, politics, nationalities, and many of the same things, you name it, that threaten to divide America today. I write books, create games, and share inspirational insights to build up faith, build up family, and build up my community. I share here because I want to be a bridge builder, and it might be the quickest way to get my message out there. I want to help all people in our pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. And I'm blessed, I'm thankful to live in America that values these liberties, these freedoms, and provides me the opportunities that it does so that I can talk about these kinds of things openly. Time for a story. My wife was telling me about a walk she had with my daughter and three of our other kids. My 7-year-old girl was struggling to keep up because of the way that she was riding her scooter, sometimes off the path through the grass and blissfully getting distracted with nature. That's what it's all about, right? My wife told her she needed to go faster, though, and she said, to which she replied, she can't, and that she didn't want to. They went back and forth for a while. Then my wife told her, well, the other kids are getting too far ahead, and soon we won't be able to see them around the bend. To which my daughter replied, when will I get to have my freedoms to do what I want? I'm an American. Not sure where she heard that from, but it sounds like an unchecked teenager, and she's not a teenager yet. My wife explained that freedom doesn't mean you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, with no consequences. She told her how she had bigger things to worry about. She was responsible for her and the other kids, and even when she gets older and wiser, she would need to choose to be safer and more responsible for her actions in order to keep the freedoms we all want to enjoy together. My wife didn't have time to debate her, nor would she choose to debate her further on it, even if she did have time for it. That's not her way. She tells our children the right way, or at least what she expects of them, whenever they are in her care, being that we as parents are in charge of their well-being. But then she moves on and lets them think on it. In this instance, she began trying again to get my daughter to move along so that they could catch up with the other kids. She tried to reason with her that they could leave the scooter at the side of the trail because they would be coming back that way soon anyway. But my daughter refused. Her childlike thoughts of what was important in that moment overrode any other ideas. She didn't want anyone to come along and take her scooter. She wasn't thinking at all about anyone coming along and taking her siblings, but their mom was. Rightfully so. So I was scrolling through YouTube videos one day and came across a show where a group of couples were observing how their children would behave and what choices they would make when their parents were not close by, given different scenarios. I only watched a couple episodes in the middle of that series, but I got an interesting sense of the different parenting styles. It seemed some couples thought that others were too hard on their kids. Some thought the others were too easy on their kids. The results seem to be mixed, favorable for one style of parenting in one instance and less favorable in another. And, of course, with different personalities and the more variables and randomness, sometimes all bets were just off. It's not easy to have a controlled experiment for life, but one thing they all seemed to agree on was safety and the extra precautions needed to maintain it. That was evident when their kids were approached by an actor acting as a stranger who was walking a dog at the park, who managed to lure more than a few kids away from the other actor's sight, who was acting as a babysitter. He would tempt them to come with him just for a moment to see puppies he said were in his care. Were in his car. Same thing, I guess. A lie. Whatever they needed to do to teach their kids how to be safe became more important than any script or lack thereof, given an imminent danger. We need to filter our kids' experience through our understanding until they are able to make good choices for themselves. And frankly, some of us parents know more about what dangers lurk around some decision points than others. I was thinking about how a bunch of little decision points make up our lives and who we become. My little girl will make a lot of choices for herself throughout her life. She is becoming more and more accountable for herself as the years go by. Naturally so. Have my wife and I best prepared our kids for the challenges they will face in a world that is becoming more and more morally ambiguous? Those choices will govern who she can and can't be with her life. Some choices will expand the soul and her opportunities for an increase of happiness. Those choices usually involve thinking more than others or more about others than ourselves at the core of our decisions. Some choices might be pleasing in the moment, but will restrict her happiness in the long term. Those choices are usually short-sighted and plain selfish. I was looking through the founding documents of America the next morning, July 4th, 2026, and my daughter happened to ask me, what was I looking at? I explained what I was learning, or at least remembering, about the important wording of the Constitution and Declaration of Independence, and a proclamation to the world on families, for that matter, from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, of which we are a part. I took the opportunity to teach my daughter. Hey friends, if you made it this far in the video, you might want to like and subscribe so that I may bring you more great content like this. Thank you. Now back to the video you came for. I asked her if she knew the difference between liberty and freedom. I read to her from a website I was reading, unitedwepledge.org. Quote, liberty emphasizes the importance of individual rights and the limitations of government power, while freedom is more focused on the ability of individuals to pursue their own interests. I explained to her how, if she lived all by her lonesome, she could think all about herself, or think more all about herself. Sometimes this girl does think a lot about herself. But then she would have no one else to enjoy her time with. We live in a society. We live around other people. We have to be considerate of the whole more than any one person. I explained to her how some individuals think we have freedom to do whatever we want in America. But our Declaration of Independence is about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Liberty is more about the collective governance of freedoms. In other words, if your individual freedoms selfishly or unwittingly endanger the freedoms of others to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then the people in charge must protect everyone's freedoms and rights over your freedoms and rights. And if good or bad choices are made by those who govern or are governed, there are good or bad consequences that follow. Some natural, some not. Some conditions, like COVID, may inhibit the few for the common good, within reason. It has been interesting watching my kids. I'm glad there are 4 of them, but they are learning early in life that the more people you live around, the more you learn about human behavior, the more difficult it is to get along, and the more opportunities you have to figure out or deal with how to multiply your joy with more personalities and perspectives. As I went to the 4th of July activities that evening this year, I pondered the inspired freedoms and rights this country affords us and what it prioritizes. The First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution states, Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, or to petition the government for a redress of grievances. It bears repeating that the First Amendment protects 5 core freedoms or rights: freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion, both exercise and prohibition of government-established religion, right to peaceably assemble, right to petition the government. Unfortunately, we are seeing more and more infringements on these freedoms and rights, both by the government and the governed. In order to uphold a government that is by the people and for the people, we need to protect ourselves from corrupt and/or tyrannic governance, but we also need to be wary of ourselves. When a majority of a people choose wickedness over righteousness, even if it is in the name of free choice, that nation is ripe for destruction. The history of the rise and fall of great societies quickly imploding on themselves is replete with examples. In recent years, the public has expressed more loudly their desire for more freedoms and rights of the people to not only be heard, but made into law. And we have to ask ourselves if selfish individual desires to basically do whatever we want, expecting no or mitigated consequences, infringes upon the collective liberties and/or creates intended or unintended consequences that do break down society as a whole. The framers of the Constitution were divinely inspired. They prioritized liberty over freedoms. Hopefully, America has not lost its way in favor of individual rights at the expense of united liberties. I have enjoyed seeing YouTube videos of Europeans and others who are visiting America for the World Cup and seeing it for what it is 250 years after its founding. Many of them may cherish what we have more than many of us do, because they have seen and lived the alternative up close. For now, the USA remains a country inspired by religious freedom, set up under God with liberty and justice for all. I hope we continue to be a country shaped by legal, emphasis on the word legal, immigrants, but dedicated to true core principles that made this nation great and that allows for my children's children's children to grow up in the land of the brave, home of the free. It is truly a blessed and promised land of opportunity, set apart for God's purposes, to bless the world with eternal laws that can bring earthly and heavenly prosperity and happiness. So that concludes this video. You might like more of what I share on faith, family, and community. So be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. My next video is about how I met my wife from the Philippines, brought her to America, and married her. Hope to see you there.